Next tonight, it follows decades of campaigning, political arguments, a Stormont collapse and marches on the streets. But Northern Ireland's new Irish Language Commissioner is now in post. Paul Deeds has said he is taking up the role when the conversations about the language are particularly toxic. He's with us live on the programme. But before we meet him, our correspondent Robbie Meredith looks back on what has led to his appointment.
It's a long time since residents on Belfast's Ormeau Road had to put up their own street signs in Irish. But even many years later, the Irish language and how it was used were at the centre of political division.
Curry my yoghurt, can Coca-Cola.
Well, if it's anything to go by what you just did, we don't need a strategy for pure ignorance.
A DUP Agriculture Minister also ordered the Irish nameplate on a fisheries inspection boat to be replaced with the name in English. Paul Given's withdrawal of funding from an Irish language bursary scheme when he was Communities Minister in 2016 was a big factor in the subsequent collapse of the Stormont executive. Though more recently as Education Minister, he has made efforts to build bridges with Irish speakers.
Gaeilge.
It was the New Decade New Approach Agreement which restored Stormont, which paved the way for commissioners for the Irish language and Ulster Scots and Ulster British tradition. 5 years on, they're finally in post. But as a row and legal challenge over bilingual signage at Belfast Grand Central Station shows, the potential for controversy hasn't gone away. It's now Paul Deeds' job to navigate that as Northern Ireland's first Irish Language Commissioner. He says he wants to work with the language's unionist and loyalist critics. The Commissioner's powers could range widely, ensuring language standards are met in the courts, Stormont and other public services. So taking the job is just the start of the journey. Robbie Meredith, BBC Newsline.
And Paul Deeds is here with us live. We're really grateful for you coming in. Thank you so much. Pick up on a theme there in Robbie's piece. How big a job do you have on your hands to win the hearts and minds of people in unionist communities?
Well, it's pretty huge. It's a huge job in itself anyway. It's going to be quite a challenge to win the hearts and minds of people across the community. And hostility towards the Irish language and ignorance about the Irish language does not come solely from the PUL. It's not the preserve of the PUL community. It's right across the community. So, yeah, I have a job of work to do there to try and dispel a lot of the myths around the Irish language. And I will do my best to do that. It's not necessarily central to the role of the Irish Language Commissioner. It's an oversight role. I'm here to implement the parts of the Identity and Language Act that relate to the Irish language. But I will do my best to try and help bring people with me, especially people in the local authorities and in the public authorities who are the real focus of my work.
How many Irish language speakers are there in Northern Ireland?
There's 7,000 children in Irish medium education, so that gives you an idea of the scale of the growth of the language in recent times. So it is quite huge. There's a massive community out there who have big expectations. They've been waiting for a number of years to have their rights recognised. They've marched on the streets several times to have their rights and their needs met. So there's a big expectation there as well. I'll do my best to meet that. But again, the focus of my work is really looking at how the Irish language is represented within the state and in the public service, and that has to be the focus of my work. So I'll be trying to work with the Irish language community, trying to work with all communities, but the focus of my work is the public authorities, and that's what the Act is about.
You've been doing lots of talking today. Lots of people have questions for you. Earlier it came up that you're not a fan of kneecap, and that has struck people as surprising, rightly or wrongly, I don't know, but why not?
Well, I don't want to say too much about kneecap, and I understand I did get into it earlier on, but I don't really want to go there too much again. I'm not a fan. It's just the opposite of the way that I would seek to do my business. I like to...
But be more specific. What
what
is wrong with how they're doing their business?
I like to build relationships. I like to reach out to people who maybe don't come from a community that has a lot of experience with the Irish language. And I think...
find it divisive?
I do to an extent. And I think to do what I want to do and what I've always done throughout my career, I think to do that you need to try and be as inclusive about how you go about promoting the Irish language as possible. And I don't think they do that very well, but I'm not a fan.
Have they made your job harder?
Possibly. That's the reality of it. I've spoken to a number of people in, for example, the PUL community who are quite uncomfortable with some of the things that they do and say. But that's just what it is. I mean, the challenge, the real challenge is dealing with hostility within our media, to an extent, hostility within our political institutions and among some of our political leaders. And that's the hostility I think we really need to focus on.
How does the hostility, as you describe it in the media, present itself in your view?
Well, I think, unfortunately, a number of the more extreme voices, a number of the more intolerant voices who, for whatever ideological reasons, are opposed to the Irish language have, I think, been amplified quite a lot in recent years and in recent months and weeks. And I think that's unfortunate, and that certainly hasn't made my job any easier. But again, I want to try and get past all of that and get over all of that and work with people as much as possible.
But you will accept that there are people who aren't on the media who have very strong feelings, very deep concerns about this area.
Absolutely. And I've worked with many of them. I've worked with many of them throughout the 22 years I've been working in the Irish medium sector. So I know how to work with people. I'm looking forward to continue to hold out the hand of friendship and build bridges to try and get my work done. So I accept completely and understand that there are genuine misperceptions about the Irish language and fears, and I want to try and help people get over those.
Two quick final questions, if you don't mind. Dual language signs. We know that somewhere like Belfast, residents of a street, only 15% of them need to back dual language signs, bilingual signs, in order for them to be put up. Lots of people think that is absurdly low, that percentage, in order to speak for an entire street. What do you say to them?
Well, the UN certainly doesn't think it's very low. They recommend between 5 and 20%. The advisory panel for the Framework Convention for the Protection of National Minorities, they don't think it's very low. In fact, they thought the 2/3 majority was a disproportionate obstacle that was demonstrably prohibitive and had a dissuasive effect on people belonging to national minorities exercising their rights. So that's pretty strong language, and that comes from the international experts, not from myself.
And just finally, I know you're not going to get involved in the legal action around Grand Central Station and bilingual signs there, but can you describe in your view how it's been handled by our politicians?
I think it could have been handled a lot better. I think part of the reason, to be fair to them, is they, like a lot of the public bodies I've been working with over the last couple of years in my role with Forest na Gaeilge, they have been waiting for the Commissioner to be in place to do a lot of that work for them. But we can just see that some of the damage that's been done by our political leaders not taking the initiative and getting these things done when they should have been done under the obligations that the UK government already has with the European Charter.
Paul, we're really grateful for you coming in. That's Paul Deeds, the new Irish Language Commissioner. Thank you so much.